All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Today, we're going to give buyers top tips on what they should do if they're looking to buy a house in this market. Really, if you've been listening to the news, have been listening to any of the videos that are out there, including ours, we're kind of reporting that there has been a paradigm shift, that it is moving more to a buyer's market than a seller's market. And, taking a lot of criticism on, no way, not in my town, things aren't adjusting, that we're crazy, that inventory is still short. And I agree that inventory is still short, but the purpose of this video is to tell you what we're seeing and that the market is definitely shifting. We're going to show you that, and we're going to give you as a buyer some great tips that can help you be more educated if you still want to move forward, which I encourage you to do in buying a house in any market, but you need to be careful. So we're going to get started.
As a buyer in the market, one of the first things that you want to look at is the days on the market. Sometimes you'll see DOM, and what that means is how many days the home has been on the market since it was a new listing.
So depending on where you're looking for a home, days on market will fluctuate greatly throughout the nation. Here in Maryland last month, we had an average of 16 days on the market, and nationwide, Realtor.com just published a report, link is in the show notes, that the average home spent 31 days on the market across the country. And the reason that this is important, why you need to know what the average days on market is for the area where you're looking, is that when you're getting those alerts that are popping up or you're searching for homes, you want to see how long has the home that you're interested in been on the market, and how does that compare to that area's average in the last 30 days. So what that means, guys, for you as buyers is playing off of, what the seller may be thinking. That means that you can now negotiate better terms that maybe you had not been able to do in the past. And maybe it's a difference of now you being able to get the home or not. So let's just kind of talk about some of those things. So what we're seeing now is prices being reduced. So now when you're looking at days on market, and we're going to talk about price reductions a little deeper here in a couple minutes, but now start thinking about what is going on with the house. You need to do, if you're going to buy in this market, you really need to be smart. You need to have a good agent. And if you don't have a good agent, you need to be even smarter on your own. And what I mean by that is, why is the house sitting on the market? So if you go on sites like Realtor.com, I personally like Realtor.com better than Zillow, or Truly. For me, I just think it's a site that's easier to navigate. But whatever site that you like, you can do research. So, how long have the people lived in the house? Who are the sellers? Is it a business that's selling the house? Is it Open Door? Where a lot of their homes have not sold, they're sitting on the market. The big thing is the house vacant or occupied? If you can look at the photos online and it doesn't look like anybody's living there, chances are they're going to be a little bit more motivated to sell than if, they're living in the home and they're going, well, we're going to wait until we get our offer because we're living here. We don't have any additional expenses, where somebody that has a vacant home still needs to pay the taxes, the insurance, cut the grass, especially this time of year. So when you see days on the market starting to rise and you start to look at the specifics that are involved with the seller, and if you have an agent, that agent can call the listing agent, ask questions that you want to know. So, make sure you make a list of questions and things that I'm suggesting here. And, but that means that if the days on the market are extended, the chances are you're going to have a better chance of getting your offer accepted, that you'll be able to use the financing that you qualify for. And a lot of times buyers that don't have the best credit or don't have as much cash down, they've been knocked out because sellers were only taking conventional financing or cash, which means higher down payments, better credit scores from buyers, cash, obviously. But basically now that home's sitting on the market, maybe your FHA or your VA financing, which is great financing, has a better chance of being accepted.
You also may be able to get an extension of your settlement date. Sometimes you're stuck in leases and you don't want to have to pay double the amount. So that is a possibility and an option.
That has been important to buyers because a lot of times they can't afford double payments of their rent and the home mortgage. And so, absolutely better favorable terms for you means that maybe you can pick the closing date that you're looking for.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about another important tip here I want to go over is back to active, because a lot of buyers don't understand this. They don't know to look for it. And so, one of the things that is important I want to say is that here locally in Maryland, in April, we had, out of the total of 10,545 closings in April, 1,747, 16.6% locally in Maryland went back to active at least one time during the listing period. In May, we saw an increase with that. So we had 10,871 sales here in Maryland, and 1,896 of those went back to active at one point in the process. That's 17.5%. And why back to active is important, okay? And you can, again, when you're on Realtor.com, you can look at the back to actives, the history of the property. Why that's important is because the seller is now probably a little bit more deflated in their expectations. So they had a contract, they put the house on the market, people ran to it, they offered probably a great price. Maybe they had an as-is inspection. For whatever reason, it went back to active, meaning that the contract fell through. And some of the main reasons that they fall through are inspections. So, it could have been that the buyer, for the price that they were willing to pay, wanted it to be in a little different condition, a better shape than what they thought. Maybe they would have to spend too much money based on the price that they originally offered. And a lot of times, if this is the case, and that's why it's important that you have a good agent that they can ask the listing agent, why did it go back on the market? Because a lot of times, if the home, it doesn't mean it's a bad house, but if the home had a bad inspection or an issue during the inspection process, a lot of times these new findings that the seller, whether they knew it or not, but this new discovery through the inspection process becomes a disclosure issue that the agent, the listing agent, or the seller will need to tell prospective buyers what they found as a result of the inspection that could cost a lot of money and whether they fixed it or not. And you know that ahead of the negotiation process, so that can also adjust your offer price. It puts the sellers sometimes in a little bit more realistic expectation of what they should accept for their home. And also the important thing to know is that if it wasn't an inspection or the inspection report wasn't disclosed, they may not have to disclose any defects, but more importantly, the buyer may just have had remorse. So they could have had an inspection that was an as-is inspection with the right to terminate, and they, for whatever reason, just said, you know what, we offered too much, we're not comfortable with it anymore, and we're out.
And something else to note that, with all the technical business side of it, there is the emotional side of it. So the sellers having the ups and downs of having it under contract, being hopeful, and then yet again having to put it back on the market, it can be extremely stressful.
Now, I do want to caution you, if you've seen the home go back to active 2 or 3 times, any more than once really, then you want to be a little bit more cautious. It doesn't mean still that it's a bad house. I have sellers right now in another state relocating to Maryland, and their house has fallen through twice. And they believe that the reason is because the buyers are just overstepping in their negotiations, and then they're cooling off quickly with some buyer remorse, as I discussed it. Price reductions. I want to talk about this. This is another major consideration because what we have seen lately is a completely different scenario than just 3 months ago. So here in Maryland, we've seen that there's been a 37% increase in the number of price reductions from April to May. So out of the active listings in April here in Maryland, 10,073 houses were placed in an active status during the month of April. 2,132 of those experienced a price reduction at one point. In May, we had 9,971 new actives go to market, and we experienced in May 2,921 price reductions.
And in a report by Realtor.com, nationwide, the amount of price reductions jumped to 10.5% in the month of May. Compared to last May of 2021, that was at a 6.2%. And in May, the top city that's finding the most price reductions is Austin with 14.7%. Following that is Las Vegas with 12.3%. And Phoenix is next in line with 11.6%.
And you can also on Realtor.com search for your city, the area that you would like to buy a home. And then basically you can go into the filters and click price reduced, and it will give you the amount of houses that have had a price reduction. If you unclick it, you'll see the actives, and then you can do your own comparison with the percentages of houses being reduced. I know I was looking yesterday in a lot of the major cities, and the price reductions are really jumping up. Inventory is jumping up as well.
Yep.
So guys, with all these price reductions now taking place, I think we've hit the peak of the seller's over asking price market. What do you offer for the home you're interested in buying? I think, guys, you're going to need a great buyer's agent, someone with a lot of experience. If you have one, that's great. If you don't, you're not represented, reach out to me. I'll connect you with a great real estate agent, buyer's agent in your city. If you're here in Maryland, we will be glad to help you. But what we really need to look at is where were the prices for that home 2 years ago? And the reason that's important is because nationwide, we've seen a 35.4% growth from 2 years ago in the median asking home price. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to get this home for 34 or 35% less, because probably will not. But what that will tell you is based on where it was, what the seller's expectations are, and then you'll be able to gauge based on current comparables over the last couple hot months where you and your agent feel that you should come in with your ask price.
That is a huge jump, that 35.4%, because the average salary growth is currently between 4 and 6%.
Yeah, it's certainly housing prices has outpaced, which is, guys, why we believe there is a major correction underway. We're going to see prices come down. The affordability is becoming out of reach for so many. And one of the last things I want to mention here is if you're interested in buying a home right now, really make sure that your job is stable, because I feel that in the next round of interest rate hikes in the attempt for the Fed to slow down the rate of inflation, I feel it is going to have a crunch on a lot of the local businesses. And I believe that we could be looking at layoffs. So make sure that your job is stable, make sure that you have some money in the bank, and make sure, guys, that you're going to plan on staying in the home for at least 5 years, that if we do see any type of major correction, you'll still be okay when it comes time to selling your home. All right, guys, go find that home you've been waiting for. And we appreciate it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It'll let Melissa and I know that you do. And guys, we love it when you subscribe and hit that alert bell so you're alerted every time we upload new content. See you next time.
See you next time.
Sachs Realty, Maryland broker number 607720, office number 443-318-4514, equal housing opportunity.